Okay, good morning all of you. So last session we talked about the nice concept of cleavage and blastulation, and we had analyzed how twins are born, how Siamese babies are born, and then the beautiful concept of how a baby is actually delivered out of the mother's body and how we make the baby breathe and the baby comes to normal respiration. So it was a beautiful concept we analyzed. Today we have a vital topic, a phenomenon called as gastrulation. Gastrulation, formation of the three germinal layers. So we had ended the last session saying that at the end of blastulation is formed a blastula, which consists of a trophoblast, and then there is an embryoblast. And we had said trophoblast forms the amnion, chorion, placenta and umbilical cord, and the embryoblast forms the future embryo. Now, embryoblast forms the future child or the embryo, but in the very first lecture we had said the baby develops from three layers: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. Ectoderm forms certain parts of the body, mesoderm forms certain parts of the body, endoderm forms certain parts of the body. So baby develops from ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. That is what we had said in the first lecture. Last lecture we said baby develops from embryoblast. So what is the connection between the embryoblast and the three layers ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm? The embryoblast itself undergoes a beautiful arrangement of cells to form three layers, namely ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, and that concept by which the embryoblast gets converted into three layers, ecto, meso and endoderm, is a process called as gastrulation or formation of three germinal layers. Very beautiful topic. Please picturize this well. So like a movie going on in your mind, try to picturize this process called gastrulation. Let's begin with the process called as gastrulation. At the end of blastulation, we have trophoblast, embryoblast, a cavity called blastocoele, which is filled with uterine milk. The pole where we have embryoblast is called the embryonic pole. The opposite pole is called as the embryonic pole, and uterine milk is entering in to form the cavity called as blastocoele. Gastrulation begins. Embryoblast becomes three layers: ecto, meso and endoderm. How does this happen? सबसे पहले embryoblast is made of round cells everywhere. The lowermost layer of the rounded cells start becoming flat. So lowermost layer of the rounded cells has now become flattened. तो यहाँ पर गोल सेल्स है और अब ये फ्लैट सेल्स हो गए. So sir, the rounded cells have become flat, and this layer of flat cells is called as the endoderm. So your endoderm is ready. We had embryoblast, rounded cells, lowermost layer of rounded cells becomes flat, and this layer of flattened cells is called as the endoderm. So endoderm ready. Now the remaining cells of the embryoblast start fusing with each other. तो ये embryoblast के बाकी के cells start fusing with each other to form tall columnar cells, and this layer of tall columnar called as the ectoderm. तो ये एम्ब्रियोब्लास्ट का ectoderm बन गया और ectoderm के नीचे the flattened cells we are having here are called as the endoderm. So the entire embryoblast has become flat cells which are called as endoderm and उसके ऊपर tall columnar cells which is called as the ectoderm. So this is lowermost layer called endoderm, tall columnar cells which is called as ectoderm, and thus the entire embryoblast has become two layers, flattened cells called endoderm and columnar cells called ectoderm. Now the ectoderm cells start sinking. Trophoblast, embryoblast, endoderm, ectoderm, and ectoderm cells start sinking. As the ectoderm cells sink, it will carry with it endoderm cells. So flat endoderm cells and ectoderm cells sink and they go from the embryonic pole towards the center and it forms a disc-like structure which is called as the embryonic disc. So this disc is called as the embryonic disc. If you remember, the entire embryoblast has become endoderm and ectoderm. So all the cells are in the ectoderm-endoderm disc which is called as the embryonic disc. And as the ectoderm cells sink with endoderm, it forms in the center this disc-like structure called embryonic disc. The entire baby will develop from the embryonic disc. Very importantly, as ectoderm cells start sinking, it will form a distinct cavity. So trophoblast और ectoderm के बीच में एक cavity आ जाएगी, and as the ectoderm cells start sinking, it will form a distinct cavity between trophoblast and ectoderm. That cavity is called as the amniotic cavity, and the amniotic cavity gets filled with amniotic fluid which will in the future surround the entire fetus, and the baby nicely rotates in the cavity called amniotic cavity with a fluid called amniotic fluid. Now, trophoblast cells at the embryonic pole undergo cell division. Trophoblast cells at the embryonic pole undergo cell division and they form a single layer of cells. A single layer of cells which are called as the amniogenic cells. So ये trophoblast cells हैं and they have divided to form a single layer of cells. And what is the single layer of cells which is there? These are the trophoblast cells, and trophoblast cells के नीचे it has formed a single layer of cells which are called as the amniogenic cells. The amniogenic cells form the roof of the amniotic cavity. Amniogenic cells form the roof of the amniotic cavity, and underneath it what will happen? Sir, ये है trophoblast cells, ये है amniogenic cells, they form the roof of the amniotic cavity. Then we have ectoderm. Then we have endoderm, collectively called as the embryonic disc, and endoderm cells, now flat endoderm cells start multiplying downwards. And as the endoderm cells multiply downwards, they touch each other at the opposite pole called as the embryonic pole. So where are amniogenic cells formed at the embryonic pole? Where have endoderm cells touched each other at the endoderm cells have touched each other at the embryonic pole. So this is embryonic pole, this is embryonic pole, and what have endoderm cells done? Flat endoderm cells multiply downwards and touch each other at the embryonic pole, and they form a cavity which is called as the primary yolk sac. तो यहाँ पर एक cavity आ जाती है called as primary yolk sac. Above we have a cavity called as amniotic cavity. Underneath it we have a cavity which is called as the primary yolk sac. So two distinct cavities are formed. And primary yolk sac is supposed to be filled with yolk. तो गैस्ट्रुलेशन दूसरे एनिमल्स में भी होता है. चिकन के अंदर, बर्ड के अंदर भी गैस्ट्रुलेशन होता है. What does primary yolk sac get filled with? Yolk. But human egg, we remember, is alecythal, and all the yolk was utilized for cleavage. तो cleavage में ही सारा yolk खत्म हो गया था. And when this morula drops on the blastula, what is it filled with? Uterine milk. And that means the blastocele, which is filled with uterine milk, now forms a yolk sac. And what is the yolk sac filled with? Uterine milk. तो दूसरे एनिमल्स में yolk sac में yolk होता है. ह्यूमंस के अंदर yolk sac के अंदर uterine milk होता है. And what is the function of this yolk sac? Not given in your books, but you may please remember this. Yolk sac cells in the future form the RBCs of the fetus. तो fetus के RBCs, red blood cells, yolk sac के cells में से बनते हैं. सुना है normally RBCs are made by bone marrow of your bones, but growing fetus में अभी तक bones बने ही नहीं है. If there are no bones in the baby, there will be no bone marrow. So who will produce RBCs of a fetus? The RBCs will be produced by cells of the yolk sac. And in females, while this baby is developing, in the third month of pregnancy, the baby's ovaries will develop and the yolk sac cells form the future germinal epithelium of the baby. तो ovary का germinal epithelium, which we remember will form oogonia, primary oocytes and the future eggs. The germinal epithelium develops from the yolk sac. Where does ovary develop from? Ovary develops from the mesoderm. But where does the germinal epithelium develop from? The yolk sac cells. And thus, sir, we have trophoblast, amniogenic cells, amniotic cavity, ectoderm, endoderm, collectively called embryonic disc, and endoderm से बना yolk sac, which will form the future RBCs of the fetus, and in females it will form the germinal epithelium of the ovaries. And now something crucial will happen at this point. The trophoblast cells everywhere. ये कौन कौन से सेल्स है आपके? ट्रोफोब्लास्ट cells everywhere. Trophoblast cells start undergoing rapid cell division. Trophoblast cells start undergoing rapid cell division, and as they divide rapidly, they will push the amniogenic cells downward, they will push the yolk sac cells inward, and it will form a collection of new cells of trophoblast, and this layer is a layer of trophoblast cells which is called as the mesoderm. But sir, mesoderm is supposed to be between ectoderm and endoderm, and ectoderm endoderm से बनता है mesoderm, and that is from embryonic disc. तो embryonic disc में से actual endoderm बनना चाहिए, mesoderm बनना चाहिए. तो real mesoderm comes from the embryonic disc, and this mesoderm is not from ectoderm endoderm, so sir it is not a part of embryonic disc. It develops from the trophoblast, and trophoblast से बनता है ये वाला mesoderm. So this is called as the extra embryonic mesoderm. What is this mesoderm called as? The extra embryonic mesoderm, and extra embryonic mesoderm has now developed from the trophoblast cells. Then the real layer, intraembryonic mesoderm. सर ये बहुत ध्यान से पिक्चराइज करना. सर, we have ectoderm, we have endoderm, and they have formed a disc called as the embryonic disc. Embryonic disc में at any position, say 6 o'clock position, 9 o'clock position, 12 o'clock position, 3 o'clock position, any position. Let us say 9 o'clock position. Sir, endoderm cells are flat. Flat endoderm cells become columnar. So in this area, flat endoderm cells have become columnar. Say in this area, flat endoderm cells have become columnar. We have it here. This is endoderm, ectoderm, or endoderm में flat endoderm cells have now become columnar, and this collection of columnar cells is called as the prochordal plate. इसे क्या कहते हैं? Prochordal plate. Prochordal plate. Prochordal plate in the future will form the head end of the baby. Something meaningful has come for the first time. Till now, zygote, morula, blastula, and everything was formed. कुछ भी डिफाइंड नहीं था. Everything was just a collection of cell. जब embryonic disc में flat cells become columnar, it forms the prochordal plate, which forms the future head end of the baby. And the line passing through the prochordal plate forms the embryonic axis, central axis of the child. तो ये है prochordal plate. इसमें से बनेगा head end और यहाँ बनेगा central axis. So sir, it will develop heart here, it will develop liver here, it will develop stomach here, it will develop pancreas here, it will develop kidneys on the backside. These will be the hands of the baby, these will be the legs of the baby. तो प्रोकॉर्डल प्लेट ने हेड एंड डिटरमाइन किया है. ये बच्चे के हाथ बनेंगे, ये बच्चे के पैर बनेंगे, और ये सेंट्रल एक्सिस बनेगा. So flat cells of endoderm have become columnar, and that is called as the prochordal plate. Prochordal plate is the head end, and ऊपर कौन से cells है? Ectoderm. So flat endoderm cells have become columnar. Prochordal plate is the head end. Above we have ectoderm. Ectoderm cells at the tail end. Ectoderm cells at the tail end. Some of the ectoderm cells at the tail end break into small rounded cells. छोटे cells में convert हो जाता है. We have tall columnar ectoderm, and some of the ectoderm cells break down to form a collection of small rounded cells. This collection of small rounded cells is called as the primitive streak. What is that called as? The primitive streak. And primitive streak cells now start spreading downward between the endoderm and the ectoderm. और एंडोडर्म और एक्टोडर्म के बीच में ये प्रिमिटिव स्ट्रिक के सेल स्प्रेड होते हैं. तो ये आपका लोअर मोस्ट लेयर कौन है? एंडोडर्म. उसके ऊपर ये टॉल कॉलमनार सेल्स कौन है? एक्टोडर्म. और प्रिमिटिव स्ट्रिक के सेल्स हैव स्प्रेड बिटवीन द एक्टोडर्म and the endoderm, and this new layer is called as the mesoderm, and this mesoderm is between the ectoderm and the endoderm and is rightly called as the intraembryonic mesoderm. What was this mesoderm called as? Extraembryonic mesoderm. What is this mesoderm which develops from primitive streak called as intraembryonic mesoderm? And with the formation of intraembryonic mesoderm, we have three germinal layers: tall columnar ectoderm cells, बीच में rounded mesoderm cells, और नीचे flattened endoderm cells, and these are three layers which are called as germinal layers, and this structure formed is called as a gastrula, and this process is called as gastrulation. Gastrulation starts immediately after a blastula is formed and takes place 10 days. Takes for 10 days for a blastula to become a gastrula. So post fertilization कितने दिन हुए? Zygote forms morula within 3 days. Morula forms blastula in 2 days. 3 plus 2 becomes 5, and gastrula is formed in 10 days. So 5 plus 10 becomes 15. So 15 days after fertilization is developed the three layer called ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, which will form the future organs of the baby's body. And what is this phenomenon called as gastrulation? If you remember, trophoblast cells in the meantime are giving out chorionic villi and doing implantation. Implantation takes place from the 7th day to the 12th day, and embryoblast cells form three layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, from till the 15th day. So implantation by the trophoblast and gastrulation take place simultaneously. When is implantation taking place? From 7th day to 12th day. And when is gastrulation taking place? From the 6th day to the 15th day. So implantation and gastrulation take place simultaneously, and at the end of gastrulation we have three layers: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm form. These are called three germinal layers. At this point, something crucial happens. Sir, ये आपका clean layer बन गया, and sir, here we had trophoblast, and this mesoderm was called as extra embryonic mesoderm. Extra embryonic mesoderm now distinguishes into two layers. एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक मेसोडर्म में से दो अलग अलग लेयर बन जाती है, एंड सर इन बिटवीन द टू लेयर्स डेवलप्स अ स्पेस, एंड दैट स्पेस बिटवीन द टू लेयर्स इज कॉल्ड एज द सीलम. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक सीलम. एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक सीलम, that coelom or cavity is formed. तो सबसे ऊपर ये सेल्स कौन से हैं? ट्रोफोब्लास्ट. एंड सबसे नीचे ये सेल्स कौन से हैं? amniogenetic cells. So we are having trophoblast, amniogenetic cells, and बीच में two layers, of which the outer layer, this is called trophoblast. This outer layer is called as the parietal layer. Parietal layer. And what is this innermost layer called as the amniogenic cells? ये कौन से cells है? Amniogenic cells. And this inner layer formed is called as the visceral layer. So, आपके पास चार लेयर हो गए. सबसे ऊपर कौन से सेल्स थे? ट्रोफोब्लास्ट. उसके नीचे कौन से सेल्स थे? एम्नियोजेनिक सेल्स. फिर ट्रोफोब्लास्ट ने डिवाइड करके क्या बनाया? एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक मेसोडर्म. एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक मेसोडर्म ने स्प्लिट करके क्या बनाया? ऊपर एक लेयर जिसके ऊपर एक ट्रोफोब्लास्ट सेल्स, नीचे एक लेयर जिसके नीचे है एम्नियोजेनिक सेल्स. एंड व्हाट इज दिस लेयर अंडर ट्रोफोब्लास्ट सेल्स कॉल्ड? Parietal layer. And what is this layer above amniogenic cells called as the visceral layer? So we have four layers: trophoblast, parietal layer, visceral layer, and amniogenic cells. And between the parietal and visceral layer, we have a space which is called as the extra embryonic coelom. तो ये स्पेस कौन सी हो गई? एक्स्ट्रा एम्ब्रियोनिक सीलम. व्हाट इज दिस लेयर कॉल्ड? ट्रोफोब्लास्ट. व्हाट इज दिस लेयर कॉल्ड? parietal cells. व्हाट इज दिस लेयर कॉल्ड? visceral layer. व्हाट इज दिस लेयर कॉल्ड? amniogenic cells. Why do we have all these layers coming up? In the future, the trophoblast and the parietal layer form the membrane called as the chorion, and the visceral layer and the amniogenic cells form in the future the layer called as the amnion, and the amnion and chorion are now formed. So what is visceral layer? What is trophoblast and the parietal layer form the future chorion? What is the visceral layer and the amniogenic cells formed in the future? A layer called as the amnion. तो ये क्या बन गया? amnion. ये क्या बन गया? chorion. And it will surround the fetus in the future. If you remember, ये तीन लेयर एक्टोडर्म, मेसोडर्म, एंडोडर्म, इनमें से क्या बनेगा? फ्यूचर बेबी. And what will the baby get surrounded by? Amniotic cavity, which is filled with amniotic fluid. So future में amniotic cavity will become wider and wider and will get filled with amniotic fluid. Here we have chorion. Here we have amnion, and from here will develop fetus, and what will surround the fetus? Amniotic fluid. So amniotic cavity बड़ी होगी और future में amniotic cavity will surround the future baby. Beautiful process called as gastrulation. Not given in your books, but I would want you all to understand this. Sir, ये lowermost layer of cells कौन से बने हैं? These are called as endoderm cells. Endoderm cells, here we have procaudal plate which forms the future head, and here we have primitive streak which forms the tail end, and just under the primitive streak जिसमें से mesoderm बनता है, under the primitive streak endoderm cells separate. Endoderm cells separate and they form a hole. They form a hole. That hole is called as the blastopore. And blastopore will form the future anus of the baby. तो ये head end है and blastopore head end के opposite side से क्या बनेगा? Future anus. And the anus of the baby develops and endoderm cells now multiply along with the anus or the blastopore, and ये है endoderm cells, ये है endoderm cells, and उनके बीच में एक cavity बन जाती है. This cavity is called as the archenteron. Archenteron, which is actually the primitive gut. Primitive gut. Primitive gut. What is gut? Gut is the digestive system. The first part of the baby which will develop is the digestive system of the baby. तो blastopore से बनेगा future anus, and then the endoderm cells surround it to form a cavity which is called as the archenteron or the primitive gut, which forms the future digestive system. So we ended with a very important question, which is the first system of a baby to develop. The first system to develop is the digestive system. The first system to develop is the digestive system, which is the first part of the baby to develop. Anus. The blastopore forms the future anus. So anus first part बनता है, and first system to develop is the digestive system. Beautiful process called as gastrulation. I'll just recap it again and we will take a break. Trophoblast, embryoblast, embryonic pole, abembryonic pole, uterine milk, cavity called blastophy. Gastrulation begins. Embryoblast cells, the lowermost layer becomes flat and forms the future endoderm. Remaining cells of embryoblast fuse to form tall columnar cells called ectoderm. Ectoderm syncs with endoderm to form the future embryonic disc. Baby develops only from embryonic disc. As the ectoderm cell sinks, it forms a cavity, amniotic cavity, which gets filled with amniotic fluid. Trophoblast cells undergo cell division once to form amniogenic cells. And trophoblast, amniogenic cells, amniotic cavity, ectoderm, endoderm. Endoderm cells multiply and touch at the embryonic pole to form a cavity called as the primary yolk sac. Yolk sac is filled with uterine milk. Cells of the yolk sac form the fetus RBC, and in a girl fetus it will form the germinal epithelium of the ovary. Trophoblast cells everywhere undergo rapid cell division to form a layer of cells which is called as the extra-embryonic mesoderm. This is trophoblast, so what is this layer called as the extra-embryonic mesoderm? Embryonic disc. Anywhere in the embryonic disc, let us say now 3 o'clock position. Flat cells of the ectoderm become columnar, and flat becoming columnar, this is called prochordal plate. It will form the head end of the baby, line passing through it will form central axis of the baby, the hands will develop, the body will develop, the legs will develop, and this is called as the prochordal plate or the head end. Head end, tail end. Tail end, ectoderm cells break down to form a collection of cells which is called as the primitive streak. Cells of the primitive streak spread between the ectoderm and the endoderm to form a layer called as the mesoderm. That layer is the intra-embryonic mesoderm, and the 3 layers, ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, are formed. What is this beautiful process called as gastrulation? Trophoblast cells के नीचे है extra-embryonic mesoderm, and then we have a layer of cells called amniogenic cells. Extra-embryonic mesoderm splits into 2 layers, parietal layer and visceral layer, and इनके बीच में एक cavity बनती है called extra-embryonic phylum. The trophoblast with the parietal layer forms the future chorion. Trophoblast with the parietal cell form the future chorion. Amniogenic cells with the visceral layer form the future amnion. So we have chorion and amnion form. And endoderm cells के अंदर एक छोटा cavity बनता है called the blastopore. Blastopore forms the future anus, and then the endoderm cells multiply all along the anus to form a cavity which is called as the archenteron. Archenteron will form the primitive gut or the digestive system and will form the future digestive system of the baby. So which is the first system to develop? Digestive system, which is the first part of the child to develop, the anus. What is this beautiful process called as gastrulation? So, I hope you all have understood this. We'll take a small break and we will come into the next part. See ya.